The All Dress Podcast with Conor McKenna, Eric Macramella, and Sean Starr starts now.
All right, welcome back to a new episode of the show. It's the All Dress Podcast. I'm Conor with Sean, with Eric Macramella, and right now I have this urge because we're on the screen, and the way that I'm looking at it is that Sean's below and Eric's over here. But I don't know if that's what's going to be happening. We're going to rearrange it. We have a whole team of technicians who worry about this sort of thing. So either way, thank you for joining us on our technologically advanced show. Eric is back standing at his standing desk. Good to see. I don't want you to put yourself in peril like that.
Ma parole.
Whoa.
Love it.
Hot.
Love it. Only watch my Habs in French. Only because that's just tradition in our family. Since I've been
Good to see your cardio's keeping up, that you're able to stand for today's episode. I'm proud of the progress you're making. It's all about minor breakthroughs, Eric.
I don't know if I'm in good shape. I've been standing now for 3 minutes and I've lost vision in my left eye.
That's good. No, it's a good sign. Don't worry. You're
it's a good sign. Well, you guys look amazing. Connor, the lighting, you look vivacious. You look vibrant. You look very strong today.
Thank you, Eric. You're very kind. Eric had his birthday the other day. He told us at the very end of the episode, that's when we learned, or perhaps I was reminded, that Eric shares a birthday with my mother. And now apparently I've learned that Eric, your son, is it Daniel, can make a cake by himself. Did you make that allegation just now before we started the show?
Well, it's not an allegation. I mean, it's bragging, because all I do, very much like Kathy Lee Gifford talking about Cody on the show all the time, all I do is talk about my kids. I talk to my kids like about them to even strangers, but my two boys, Nicholas, who's 4, and Daniel, who's now 7. The past couple of maybe 3 years, they get together and make a cake. Now, when Nikki was 1, it was a bit harder, but Daniel's been making pancakes and those kinds of things on his own. Now, this is a cake mix, so it's not as difficult, but he can figure it out, so he can do it.
Does he have a spool for to preset to set the oven to the appropriate temperature?
So my wife will handle anything that deals with fire. My wife will handle, but they're so proud of the cake they make, and they decorate it like crazy. I mean, it's just like this festival of colors and sugar, and they're so proud. And you know what is, when you have kids, your own birthday gets redefined, and it's for them. And there is nothing more fun. There's nothing more enjoyable. I mean, I made them loot bags for my birthday. We decorate the house with like a ton of balloons. Because I'm rich, spent a lot of money on balloons, like $100, like Marvel, superheroes, and a lot of Canadians balloons, hockey balloons. It looks like a birthday walked in the house and threw up. And I would not change a thing, guys.
Has the pandemic made it like more of a happening because of the fact that they're missing out on all their friends' birthdays?
I guess I should say yes, but I am someone who never had good impulse control, nor can I restrain myself when it comes to these types of events. I've always been totally overboard. Those 2 books in the back, those are my years in review for 2019. Those are all the pictures I took. I culled it from 14,000 photographs for that year down to 2,000. It's 300 pages long. I organize it in chronological order, take one of the voices of the kids, and they tell the story for the year. I cannot control myself. I am, just like Jeb Bush, a low energy loser.
What are you trying to do? You trying to win an award here? What are you trying to do over here?
It's okay. It's okay to be that interested in children as long as they're yours, and that's the situation here. So that's great. And of course, shout out to Matt Gates. Anyway, don't want to get too woke on here. Let's get into the Canadians. They're coming off their first game back from the layoff. Connor McDavid and the Oilers.
Overrated.
I don't understand. Listen, I haven't watched the Oilers in any other games except against the Canadians this year. So I'm just like, I don't get it. What's the big? These guys suck. Terrible. He didn't even get a shot on goal. Connor McDavid is in his 6th season in the NHL. That's the 14th time, only the 14th time in his career that he has not had a shot on goal in a game. He sucks.
He sucks. Take that.
He's so overpaid. It's crazy.
Paul Byron for the Selke, or Turi Lehkonen for the runner-up for the Selke, shutting down the best player in the National Hockey League. In 4 games, this guy has 10 shots. You look at his splits. I mean, he destroys Ottawa. He destroys every other team. Like, I don't know, Eric, what you think the magic elixir is, but this guy just doesn't have it against the Canadiens.
The elixir, it's not necessarily that he doesn't have it against the Canadiens. I mean, I guess he was a bit fatigued and tired, but even when he's bad, he is really good. I think the takeaway for me from the game, it's not necessarily how to keep him in check, is the Canadiens should only play once a week because they're so well rested, right? That's the takeaway from, I watched the game last night, terrific game. But what I noticed was they had a lot of energy, and that energy kind of goes down when they play lots of games, just like anybody else. So just don't play as often.
Getting that early goal though, eh? I mean,
Fake the virus, fake the COVID, right? That's what you do. Keep faking COVID.
Just keep the season going well into
exactly.
July or August, I guess.
Hey, we're already into July now, so might as well.
My name is Gallagher.
A lot of people claiming that McDavid's frustrations boiled over, and that's why he went for that high shot on Jesperi Kotkaniemi. It happened in the first period. I don't know how many frustrations had boiled over at that point. The news today, it's a $5,000 fine, which is what the most they can fine him under the circumstances. It's always, I think I always love seeing the math of like, what does McDavid make? $10 million a season, 12 million bucks a season, right?
US.
Of course, minus taxes, although he's in Alberta, so he's doing better than most of us in this country.
Yeah, with a signing bonus. Yeah.
But that is
That's right.
I believe the equivalent of like a normal person, just like your average salary, being fined like $5, right?
I saw it was for a person that makes a $50,000 take-home salary, it's a $20 fine.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's more. Yeah. So it's more than I thought. Still,
well, this assumes that he's going to pay and the team won't pay it, right? And it's you can write that off on his taxes, whatever a write-off is, and while he's got a signing bonus that really only provides him with tax relief is if he's not a Canadian resident. But to me, it's just absurd, Connor. I look at the hit. I know there's not primary contact to the head. That's not the point. He should have been suspended because he went out of his way to hurt Kotkaniemi. That to me, because we know if that hit goes wrong, what's the result? Potentially permanent brain damage. It's all about the story we want to tell when we try and sell NHL hockey. That's not the story.
Yeah, but I mean, look, how much of this are you upset that Brendan Gallagher's lucky head was impacted by this? Like, precedent. I mean, you'd know this better than me, counselor, but precedent here in the National Hockey League, we've seen far more egregious examples of head contact result in no suspension and often in no fine. While I wouldn't mind living in a world where we could entertain the possibility of what you're suggesting here, Eric, it would be absurd given the precedent, say this season alone, for them to do something like that.
100%, Sean. And I'll just say this really quick. Connor, within the existing context that is NHL hockey, that I'm surprised he even got fined for that.
Me too.
I guess my issue is that what we need to see in the National Hockey League is a bit of a culture change so that those types of hits are not deemed acceptable.
Well, right. And that's the wishful thinking, right? Like, it sounds like you want to travel down this road of penalizing or potentially suspending based on intent as opposed to the end result, to your point about, well, what could have happened to Jesperi Kotkaniemi and how far down the road does that take us? One hit versus another, where one team can protest that we're convinced that the intent on this player was to physically do harm. Like, the point of physical contact is two part, right? To separate the man from the puck or hit to hurt. I mean, it's one of the two, if not both of them. I'm shocked that the NHL fined Connor McDavid $5,000. I mean, Connor and I talked about it on the show today. Even if it were up to me today, so watching it again on replay, watching multiple angles or whatever, he skates away scot-free, skates away with the penalty that he got called for in the first period. That's it. I mean, it's just such a sketchy road. It's hockey. I hate to chalk it up to a simple statement like that, but there's a lot of contact. It's a really nasty sport sometimes.
For sure, but I think I don't think that's a play that needs to stay in the game. That's just, it's a late shot. It's a cheap shot. Yeah. It's an angry guy. I understand that it's a part of the game. I guess what I would say is I just don't see that it really needs to be.
Totally. You know what I mean? players agree to incidental contact when they play hockey. And incidental contact looks like a lot of different things, including massive big hits that are part of the game. But that was different. That wasn't separating Kotkaniemi. That wasn't finishing a check. That was trying to exact revenge, irrespective of where the puck was. Excuse me.
And the referee did his job, Eric. The referee, it wasn't Tim Peel. It wasn't a judgment call. It was, he saw it as an egregious hit and penalized him for it. And the ref did his job. That was against the rules of hockey, and he got penalized for it. He did his job.
Right. And I think it's what Conor and I are saying is that fine is consistent with the manner in which the NHL comes down on those types of hits. What I'm saying, I think Conor might be saying is you need a shift with respect to how you view those moments during a game. Because if you want to grow the game and take care of your employees on the ice, you have to eliminate those types of hits.
I brought up the word coworker earlier today on the show, and I know that it's a funny sort of way of looking at it, but it's okay. They're members of the same union. They are out there, and that is no way to treat a coworker. Now, I understand that this is hockey and it's not an office, and it's not the same as if Shaun did that to me when we're walking through the newsroom after the show.
Part of the show, Conor. It's part of the show.
Exactly. Like, oh. And I'm like, that's gonna be.
That's my photocopy machine. Bombs.
A $20 fine, Shaun. But it is.
That'll make $50,000.
At the end of the day, that it is. It's just, I don't need these guys to always be nice to one another, and get into a situation where if somebody doesn't say please or thank you on the team charter, that's going to be a fine or a suspension. But it's just it does demonstrate a fundamental lack of respect that I think is interesting, because Jesperi Kotkaniemi hasn't been in the league very long. He hasn't played very many games against Connor McDavid, and that's the sort of thing you'd expect, let's just say, for example, Nazem Kadri to do to Jamie Benn, something like that, or Nazem Kadri, when he played for the Leafs, to do to Brendan Gallagher when given an opportunity. The result of some sort of built-up animosity and some feelings towards a player. No? Does that, I mean, there's more to that than just McDavid wants to pick a number and it happens to be Kotkaniemi, right? I mean, he's trying to get a little shot in on the guy, is he not?
Well, I thought about that too. I'm like, why Kotkaniemi? I mean, watch the game. It didn't seem like he was under his skin, or there seemed to be this battle brewing beneath the surface potentially that would result in what we saw in the first period. I'm like, okay, so is it by default? Well, then no, because there's Nick Suzuki. There's another younger player. If you wanted to not avoid a veteran, to take out his anger on a veteran, well, then you have your choices, and Kotkaniemi was on the ice. So I think that's what it was. I think he knows if he goes after, I mean, I'll use an extreme example like Shea Weber or Corey Perry, he's going to get his butt whooped. I think it's an easy out to pick on a 20-year-old,
Well,
that's my logic.
I guess I'd say two things. First thing is, I'm really happy Jesperi's first name isn't Kyle, because then we have to call him KKK, and that'd be very awkward during the broadcast. The second thing I'll say is that Jesperi is a young guy. Conor can target him really without fear of getting pummeled. And Kotkaniemi was playing a terrific game. I mean, we've talked on this fantastic, tremendous podcast with massive, huge ratings about we're going to see him pop at some point. And really, we're seeing him he's just playing some really good games all over the ice. Connor McDavid, that was a petulant move, and I don't approve at all.
All right. Anyway.
Go, Dad, go.
Yeah.
You go to your room, Conor. Very bad man. Very bad man.
I think we're making, I believe, probably a bigger deal out of this than we should.
That's fine.
But there are other things to get to. You know what? I'm going to skip over, I think, the Josh Anderson fight. We spent a lot of time on this in the show this morning. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining.
Eric, finger wag, Josh Anderson, don't fight. No,
well, it's
fighting.
not, the only thing is,
imagine
that surprise. Yeah, I mean, why would you do that?
Imagine he broke his hand. Imagine.
Yes,
I think everyone was thinking that. Everyone was thinking that.
For what?
For what?
But then he also,
because he got a high stick in the game, and he had to. I mean, come on, it defies logic. Eric, you like to say it. You're guilty of bad judgment.
Yeah, no, it was poor judgment. Also, poor judgment was taking that penalty with 2:35 to go in the third, when Carey Price was chasing his first delicious shutout of the season. That was also, so I'm starting to see with Anderson, he's got terrific hockey hair, but some bonehead decisions that make me a bit concerned. That's all.
He's a big, strong boy who's definitely. I think when you play the sort of robust brand of hockey,
Yes.
you're a bit of an old school guy. The way I think,
Oh yeah,
is a bit of a throwback. I think that there is an expectation that when challenged, you need to answer the bell. I think he's an old fashioned player in that.
Well
respect.
said.
Can I? I think you nailed it. I think Marc Bergevin, to expand on that, has built the team with good old boys.
Joel Edmondson is another guy like that.
Carey Price, Shea Weber, Josh Anderson, Paul Byron. These are all guys. Exactly. It's all the code, toughness, answer the bell. It's those character guys, those hockey character guys.
This is a playoff team. This is why if they play the Leafs in the first round or the second round, that would be a great series because the Canadians, I think, are potentially a better playoff team than they are a regular season team. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Yeah, there's evidence to back that up, namely their dominance at 5-on-5. I think that would be the biggest one for sure. Let's talk a little bit about the Gallagher line. Brendan Gallagher, along with Tomas Tatar, who looked like he picked right up where he left off. Phil Deneau's got, 5 points in his last 6 games right now?
He's got 6 and 5, yep.
6 and 5. Best hockey of the season for Phil Deneau right now. And I think the best part is that they were really going. And then all of a sudden they had the forced bye week. And were they going to be able to pick up where they left off? Yes, they were, weren't they?
Very much so. And there's a lot to prove. And good on Phil Deneau for, obviously I believe that, he dealt with a boatload of pressure. And I think it directly affected his game. And whatever he needed to do personally, professionally, I guess, to sort through all the nonsense to get to where he's been, with the 6 points in 5 games, getting his line mates going. Brendan Gallagher has morphed back into that tenacious. You don't want to match up against that player again on a consistent basis, Eric. And I do think that with Suzuki and Kotkaniemi continuing to progress and reach different levels in a season, that it still does hinge on Phil Deneau, not necessarily being the driving force, but being a consistent player because he means so much to the guys he plays with, and also to eliminate a lot of the pressure that Kotkaniemi and Suzuki both deal with.
If that line were a person, she would be a supermodel, a short supermodel, but very good looking. Deneau, Tatar, and Gallagher have been playing lights out now for about 2.5 to 3 weeks. We saw them emerge about 3 weeks ago. They have been absolutely terrific. They have coalesced into effectively one person. They are incredibly effective. And anytime the Canadians need a jolt of energy on the offensive side, they can count on that line. So I guess, Conor, kind of raises the question here. Do you extend Deneau now? Do you say that he's who we saw, who we're seeing now? Or is he a mix of the first half of the season and the second part?
I've never understood the need to extend guys early. In a situation like this where Phil Deneau, I think, wants to be here, especially, I'm not worried that Phil Deneau is going to make himself into a $6 million a year player between now and the end of the season. Give me what I don't. Whatever happened to lighting a fire under a guy's rear end and having him play his ass off for a contract? That's what I want to see happen here. And I think we may have seen a little bit of a wake up for him and that line. So let me see more of that. Let me see that down the stretch. Let me see that in the playoffs, and we'll revisit this contract situation in the offseason. I don't think there's any rush on this, and I've never understood this whole thing. I mean, taking it to the extreme is when you extend a guy the moment you can, even though he's got a full year left on the contract. Remember they did that with Tomas Plekanec? The guy fell off a cliff the moment they did that. They did it with Carey Price as well. I fail to see the logic behind doing that. It's rarely a good idea.
Man,
especially
I don't mind them doing
situation.
it. I don't mind them doing it if they're buying up UFA years and if a player is still squarely within the prime of his career. But I agree with a guy like Deneau. Number one, I think his ask is just too high. I mean, he really ultimately, just given where hockey is now and the economics are today with all the comparables, it's probably like a $3 to $4 million a year kind of guy. He's not 5 and he's not getting 5 or 6 years. So the term and the dollar figure, I think, are too high, despite the fact that that's likely what he could have signed for, Shaun.
Well, that's the thing. Like, and who's his line mate next year? Is Tatar going to be back with the team? And what does he think about, his value? How does his agent negotiate a potential contract now? What the argument is March. And what's the counter argument? Everything else. And how do you buy in? For me, I think to get to the question, it's a trust level. Are you convinced? Has Phil Deneau sold you on his game? What you've seen in March is saying, you know what? This is how it's probably going to be more often than not. The answer for me today is no. So I'm in the McKenna boat, man. I'm prove it. Go prove it. You want to be a $30 million guy? Go prove it then, because you're going to be in the playoffs and go make your money.
We were cruelly robbed of our historic week last week, which was going to I believe it was going to be 4 games in 1 week against the Ottawa Senators, wasn't it?
Yep.
We haven't gotten any. The Habs are going to play a couple, but we're not going to get our 1 week of 4 games against the Senators, a thing we have not seen since those teams met in the playoffs some years ago. They are going to play a couple games against the Sens, starting on Thursday and then again on Saturday night. You want to see, I want to see it be different. I want to see them have a game against the Sens that looks more like that game that we just saw last night against the Oilers. I don't know if I'm going to say that it's really important, but I definitely want to see it.
Yeah, I don't know if my reaction to this pending matchup is aspirational in nature, but I watch a lot of the Sens because I live in Ottawa. I talk about them on the air here a lot. I think this is a game where the Canadians have the opportunity to overwhelm a Senators team that hasn't been playing that well. And I think that those 4 lines, the way they're constructed now, Shaun, they have the opportunity to do some serious damage against the Sens.
Well, they play low-scoring games. They've won 2 of their last 3. They're coming off that loss to Toronto. And I think, like Conor was mentioning there, I don't think that, like, if they get in another close quarter game, tight checking game, and let's say they pick up a point, give them that they get that 1 point on Thursday, that, you're sounding the alarm bells. I'm naturally expecting a letdown based on the adrenaline rush from the Edmonton win. So I'm kind of going into the game with that expectation. But what I kind of want to see, guys, is I want to see Dominic Ducharme and the coaching staff figure out Ottawa a little bit, like get around how they congest everything, like show a little progress that you guys have mapped this out. You've figured out maybe some vulnerabilities there and exploit it. That's what I want to see.
They got Mike Riley on their first pairing, man.
Oh, how dare you.
I'm just like, come on. Edmonton has totally owned them all season long, every time they've played. I believe the Canucks have done the same. It's everybody else that Ottawa's been able to really sort of surprise against. But yeah, it'd be good to see. I know it doesn't mean anything. What the Canadians do against Edmonton has nothing to do with how they're going to do against Ottawa, given how Ottawa and Edmonton matched up. But yeah.
Double D. You know what, though? I think what we saw, that's very sexy, very hot. As you know, sex sells for any podcast. But I think what Edmonton showed us is that the Canadians can be that team they were at the beginning of the season, so long as they're not tired, so long as they have an aggressive forecheck. If their forwards are pressuring the Sens, D, and the forwards are coming back to assist the Habs, D, then we know that the Canadians have a really good chance of winning those games. It's all about pressure.
Right.
Oh, no.
Deshaun Watson gang sign. Or Jackson, excuse me.
Boy,
Jackson.
Anybody still defending Deshaun Watson? I mean, God, what a story. Anyway, listen, we have the time that we have here, okay?
Yes.
There's 2 things that I want to do. We're going to do our top 4 in just a few. That's going to be our top 4 cold beverages, okay? Both alcoholic and non-alcoholic, judgment-free zone. Well, actually, that's not true. We'll judge one another for sure.
Yeah.
You'll judge us. Our listeners will judge us for sure. But first, I want to talk about baseball. Opening day is coming up this week, April 1st. And, baseball is exciting in the sense that there's a lot of exciting young stars. I was saying this morning on the show, you guys, that I feel disconnected from baseball in a way that I haven't for a while. And I think part of it is, maybe it's just psychological, but it's not having a team in Canada. I know the Blue Jays are based in Canada, but they're not going to be playing in Canada to start the season. There's no plan in place for them to play games in Canada. I know they're going to revisit it as the year goes on, but there is a psychological disconnect for me that there isn't a team in this country. And maybe I've gotten older. I've just grown apart from the game a little bit. But I think you 2 guys have 2 different perspectives on this. But Eric, I wanted to start with you and how you're feeling one day before opening day.
It's really interesting that you say that, Conor, because when the Expos moved in 2004, I was hopping mad. I was at the last game. very close relationship with the Montreal Expos. And when they left, it broke my heart. And for literally 10 years, I could not watch baseball. I just felt so slighted. And then I decided I love playing baseball and I love to watch the game. So I started a fantasy baseball pool. And last night we had our draft and went 3 hours, was a lot of fun. It's year 8 of that draft, I think. And that got me back into the game. I still want our team back, but it was a process for me and it required that I actually was proactive in getting back in touch with the game. And so now that, I'm so immersed in the game of baseball, which I've always loved, I love the data and the numbers. I'm all over the AL East and all over every team in the league. But certainly, Connor, it was a process for me.
It was funny when Conor asked me this morning on the show, I think it was like the opening segment, right, about, hey, you know what tomorrow is? And once we got past the lameness, which, by the way, for the record, April Fool's jokes, pranks are never funny at any time, ever. So once we got past that, I was drawing a blank. I didn't know. I said, oh, it's game day, Habs and Sens. He says, no, it's opening day in Major League Baseball. And that's how far baseball has dropped off my radar, right? And I loved baseball more than any other sport. I played it. Maybe I loved it so much because maybe it was a sport I was decent at. And because of baseball, because of my lack of interest, which I do attribute to the lack of promotion of star power. When I look across the landscape of sports here, as good as Mike Trout is, as outstanding as Juan Soto can be, and as dynamic as he is, plate appearance after plate appearance, the marketability of these athletes in my world, whether it's talking to friends, doing a show every day, 20 hours a week with Conor, it's how I consume social media. Baseball is nowhere on my radar, nor are there stars. And maybe if I had a little bit of a keener eye, or they were better at getting me to pay attention to these guys, maybe I would be attracted to the game. Maybe I'd be more inclined to watch Bryce Harper play, or one of these guys.
Yeah, and one more thing for me is I've always been I like the numbers. Numbers are one of my favorite things about baseball. And I feel like they've been kind of destroyed, that the modern game has destroyed them. And maybe this is just me being the grumpy old guy, but the shift is one. Okay. The acceptability of somebody who hits 208 in a season, as long as his splits are at a certain way and it's okay to hit 200. I don't like that. I don't like that pitchers are no longer expected to go at least 5 innings when they start a game, that the expectation is that you are going to go out there and get a decision one way or the other. All of this stuff has also poisoned it for me. I love the idea of a complete game. I love the idea of a pitcher going 9. I love the idea of a pitcher going after 20 strikeouts in a game. I love the idea of hitting streaks being broken, records being broken, whether it's Adam Dunn breaking the strikeout record or Ichiro breaking the single season hits record. That type of thing for me is really sort of missing from the game. And maybe it's a testament to me getting older, but I miss it.
No, I don't think it. I mean, I think baseball recognizes those issues. Bob Manfred is looking to abolish the shift, and the shift will be gone. On top of that, last season, you had another record, and that was the fewest balls in play. And half of baseball plays end with no ball in play, strikeout, walk, or home run. That's a problem. Machado went to a game as a fan and said that he was bored. Other thing that I'll say is this, Shaun, respect to what you talked about insofar as being drawn to the game because of the personalities. I think the standard is the NFL. Everybody, you don't have to have a team in your market to watch the NFL because there are 16 games, or there were last season. Baseball is no different than hockey, no different than the NBA. It's a niche sport with tribal appeal. And Major League Baseball players typically are not national stars. Tatis has got a few national sponsor deals, but they don't resonate. They don't resonate because baseball is quite niche in its appeal. And so it is critically important that you have a team in your area, city or area. If you really want to be a baseball fan or want to cheer the game on, it does help. If not, do what I do, and that's fantasy baseball, which, by the way, is the most fun fantasy that I'm in.
Yeah. And, playing for the Padres I don't think really helped there for Tatis Jr. I think it's like the 28th biggest media market in the United States. And the best players, who are the best players in baseball? Mike Trout plays for the sort of other team in
Middling
LA.
Angels, yeah.
Yeah. And he's got a Crosby personality, you know.
And you know, Mookie Betts also. It's, I mean, he's an interesting guy, I guess, but he's not exactly. I mean, I don't think he's the most. I'm not going to say he's sort of the anti-Yasiel Puig, but there's not a whole lot of joy and personality in the way he plays the game, and I think that is there's a little bit of a hockey mentality, I think, amongst baseball players that holds them back perhaps a little bit too. I want to see Ozzie Smith doing a crazy cartwheel backflip and, you know, that sort of thing. I think it goes a long way, especially for young fans.
Listen, Connor, sorry, I know you want to go, but you know, the median age for baseball fans is 57 compared to the NBA where it's 4 months in utero. So baseball has this issue with an aging fan base, and people don't watch the game. Frankly, from my standpoint, I'd rather talk about baseball than watch baseball.
Me too.
Fair. Yeah. 3 for 3.
All right. Top 4 cold beverages.
Cold drinks.
Yeah, buddy.
Now, Shaun, I'll let you lead it off here. And right. Shaun, you know how this works now, right? You start at 4 and you work your way down to
Oh, Jesus. Okay, good. I had number 3 pegged to go. So I'm going to start with a drink that I was introduced to a little bit later in life. I would say maybe 7 years ago only. And ever since then, I've loved it. So based on that, it has to be 4th. And that's the delicious Arnold Palmer, a.k.a. iced tea, a.k.a. lemonade. If you want to go adult, you can call it a John Daly. It's just adding vodka. So the Arnold Palmer.
That's
Connor, anything?
Half iced tea, half lemonade.
Very nice.
Correct. Coming in at number 3, it's a childhood favorite. It's the original Coca-Cola classic red can in a can. If I can get my hands on a little small bottle of Coca-Cola, that is the best version of Coca-Cola, the traditional old school thick glass bottle. I will also have time for a delicious drink that I consume on the regular in the summer, gentlemen. It's the Noble iced coffee, not the slushy brand name, iced coffee.
No,
the liquid floating ice cubes iced coffee. How dare you?
No. Coffee is designed to be consumed when it is hot. Ice cold,
it's delicious.
Iced coffee is coffee that you bought hot and you've left on your desk like I have for 2 hours, and you drink it because you're cheap.
You ever have the McDonald's iced coffee?
Never.
I love it. I love it.
I refuse to get iced coffee. I refuse.
Okay.
It's how dare you open it, broaden your horizons, expand that palate of yours. But seriously, the king of all cold drinks. I love it. I could drink a fishbowl filled with it.
Oh.
Frozen margarita.
Oh, very nice.
Number 1.
Okay.
All right. My
Connor?
top. Okay, go ahead, Connor.
No, Eric, please.
Okay. Because I wasn't sure if I'd have anything to share.
I know.
Because I don't drink, my butler drinks for me. But it turns out I was able to make a list. I don't even know what that means, but it does remind everybody that I'm very wealthy. Number 4 on my list is iced tea. I do like iced tea, but the Canadian iced tea, not the American iced tea.
The sweet tea.
The difference, that's right. U.S. iced tea is doesn't have sugar in it. Okay, and at times can be racist. I like the sugar in it. I like iced tea. Number 3 is what I did when I was working out during the really last year when we were sent home. I was doing a lot of Peloton, a lot of sit-ups and push-ups. Smoothies. I love smoothies. Can I put smoothie as a general category? Raspberry,
do whatever
strawberry, but no banana. Banana's disgusting. I don't like
wild
bananas.
and crazy guy.
Smoothie.
You know what? I while I am not a fan of the banana, I can accept the banana in a smoothie. If I must have a banana, that is where I would have it. Personally.
I feel that it overpowers the taste in a negative kind of way.
I think you're right.
That's the issue. Number 2 is a specific beer that I adore, and I cannot drink anything else anymore. It's Collective Arts Rhyme or Reason. It's an IPA. I would bathe in Rhyme or Reason if I could.
This is what. Wait, where this is?
This is number 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. It's the best beer in the entire world. Everything else is disgusting now. And number 1, my favorite drink because I'm rich, is caviar.
No, but
sometimes I drink it. No, sometimes I'll drink it.
You can't keep torpedoing these lists. You need to actually have a number 1. No,
that is my number 1. You don't understand.
But it's not a
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
All right, Shaun, I know you have an important meeting that we're keeping you from.
It's good. It's all good.
All right, Connor.
Let's go, Connor. Bring it home.
I am a beverage aficionado. I love beverages.
We'll see.
Anytime that we're out and about, that I will say that I'll look at her and say, man, I need a cold beverage. And we will stop whatever we're doing. I don't care if it's minus 20 degrees outside.
Wow.
I'll get out. I'll go inside the coffee shop and get something. Maybe it's a nice coffee. Maybe it's a nice tea, whatever. Or a hot beverage on some days. But here we go. Okay, number 4, beverage, the margarita. I prefer the non-frozen margarita. I like it on the rocks. Salt's optional. I can take it or leave it. But a proper margarita, it doesn't have to be fancy tequila, but don't give me a bang bang tequila either. Something like an anejo level would be nice for me.
Very nice.
Oh, as you raise the eyebrow.
Specific.
Like a Don Julio anejo, and a lot of
What did you call me?
a lot of
Sebastian Aho.
a lot of margarita people will tell you that that's a waste. That's like putting Grey Goose in a Caesar, which fair.
Oh, Caesar, that's a great one too. Oh,
Yeah, it's a good one.
Listen, guys, you guys are playing checkers.
Here we go. Teach me, Bobby Fischer.
Number 3 is iced tea.
searching for Conor.
Iced tea is the classic cold day beverage. I don't want the unsweetened, but I don't like the full sweetened either. I like it about halfway. And I'll give you another life hack. I think I've told Shaun this one. When you go to Chick-fil-A, you can get the unsweetened iced tea.
Yes.
You get the Arnold Palmer there with the regular lemonade and the unsweetened iced tea. That's a nice mix. It's not too sweet.
Very good.
Number 2 is White Claw. Love my claw.
It's got to be there.
On my list for sure. That's number 2. And I can't believe my number 1 didn't make any of your lists, you guys.
Water?
There's nothing better when you're really, really thirsty than my number 1. The number 1 cold beverage or even room temperature beverage. Yes, Eric. Water.
Milk. Oh.
H2O? Are you kidding me?
Wow.
But it's so unoriginal. You're Conor. I thought it would be like things with ice cubes and different pieces of alcohol all pushed in together.
Does anything really hit the spot like water, though, when you're really, really thirsty? I mean, I could be wrong about this, but I mean, there's nothing. I keep water on my bedside table at night. There is always water on every floor of my house. I mean, water, guys, water.
That's cool. I think we got schooled, Eric.
No, I mean, I think water
back
is
to
a
the old
nice,
school.
plus we're also made up of water as well, and we
Water's
shower
life.
with water. But I thought the idea was
You will
just
die.
to pick drinks
Guys,
that
you
are
will die without water.
no, absolutely. I thought we just pick cold drinks that maybe aren't quite as obvious. You know, that's all.
Eric, I love how sad Eric is.
Yeah, because your first 3 were amazing. I was like, I can't wait for Conor's book on cold drinks. And then your last chapter is water. I'm like, I'm not going to buy the book anymore.
A tribute to a classic, Eric. How dare you?
It's like Shaun with his half salt regular potato chips,
Oh,
which is a spoiler alert for a potential top 4 down the road, perhaps.
fair enough.
Thank you for listening to the All Dress podcast, Shaun. I'm sorry for making you miss your call. I hope you
It's good.
I hope you don't lose any serious money or sponsorship opportunities as a result. Please rate the podcast. We'd appreciate it. I mean, if you've actually listened to the podcast and give it an honest rating, that would be great. That's all we ask. On behalf of Eric and Shaun, thanks for checking us out. We'll be back with you sooner than you know. Busy week ahead, so you don't know, but I think you might hear from us again pretty soon.